Hi, it's Jessie and Becky, and I bet you thought you were getting rid of me. It's not that easy, right? So, listen, I've been making these videos about who's the scammer, and I want to make something clear, right? Everything that I went through, sometimes it broke me. It left me deeply damaged. It cut me off from life, you see? But I've been living this way my whole life, trained up from when I was a child. That really broke me back then, when I was just coming into the world, and I used to believe the best in people, believing that forgiveness was always the right thing to do, believing that people could change, that families stay loyal to each other, that we don't expose each other's wrongdoings, believing so many things. And I really got taken advantage of in my youth, believing these things while people were going around claiming that they believed the same things, but destroying my reputation so that they would never be held accountable for hurting me, right? I've been going through these same things my entire life. It's like I'm the walking dead, okay? Um, I, when I was like 7, 8 years old, I was young, okay? I was sitting in my bedroom playing with my dolls on the floor. God came to me and he's like, would you suffer for God? And I was like, what? God doesn't want anyone to suffer for him. He was like, would you suffer for God? And I was like, but God doesn't want us to suffer. Why would God want us to suffer? And I was like asking questions like, why would you even say this? um, and he said, if you'll promise to suffer for God, then I promise that you'll overcome all your suffering. And then when it ended, right, before he left, he said, now go and cut yourself. Go and cut yourself. It's the mark of covenant, right? Where do you cut yourself? On your thumb. Not my right, which is anointed for battle. My left, which the Jews will tell you is the bad side, right? Because why? Because the left side is anointed to rule. We hold the scepter, right? These prophecies that say, what is it about when Shiloh comes? That I'm not saying I'm Shiloh, right? Um, I'm saying that some things in the Bible make me ask questions of like what my role in the world is. And I've talked to God face to face, right? I've seen God from my own eyes. I saw the mountain, it didn't fall, and he showed me his face, basically, right? The Jews don't tell that story about when Moses saw the backside of God, right? The Muslims tell this story, which I find very interesting, right? That they would know this, but God, he reveals himself to everyone. He puts little pieces here and little pieces there, little pieces there, and he makes it so that you relate to everyone and you can't discriminate against anyone, even if you don't belong to that group, or even if you can't relate to that group in any way. You can see some genuine authenticity to this group because you have a shared experience in knowing God, where maybe they don't have the experience now, but at some point in time they knew that this is how you see God, you know? Um, so my rabbi yesterday, he says that Moses said, no one living sees the face of God, you know? And I do believe that's true, you know? And I do believe that from my childhood, I was never able to live. I was never able to live freely. I was never able to have dreams and desires that I could actually fulfill. And whenever I did have dreams and desires, I'd try to fulfill them and I'd just get cut right back down anyways. They were like, stay in that pit, stay broken, stay silent. We'll feed you, but that's all you're getting from us. You get no life, you get sustenance, but no life. And that's been like the theme of my life. I can get sustenance, I can get food, but what's the Bible say? Man doesn't live by bread alone. So I can get sustenance, but I still can't have life. And I get it. I get it. I get it. That I have to be this way because, God doesn't talk to the living, right? God doesn't talk to the living face to face. And I don't want to sound like schizophrenic to anyone. I'm applying, the rules to my life to bring some understanding to things, right? And even Jacob, when Jacob left, when Jacob died, like prophecy disappeared from the Jewish people. That Jacob brought so many blessings with him that his death, it just, things weren't there anymore. But even Jacob said, he had not yet lived, So when we say that God doesn't talk to the living, and we have Jacob over there saying, I haven't yet lived. My whole life has been troubled. My whole life I've been despised. My whole life I've been chased. I haven't gotten the opportunity to quite live yet. I get it. I get it. And, there's been a few times where God said that he'll leave me so I can be happy. And me in this world, I've turned to him and I've said, don't you dare. Don't you dare leave me. Don't you dare leave me. There's no life without him, We're humans. We're created as social creatures. We find life within each other, Iron sharpens iron. We find life through relationships. You get cut off from relationships and you die. So my whole life, my one constant relationship, it's been God. Okay? My one constant relationship. And, I said, I don't believe in Jesus anymore. I already told you that. But truth be told, I thought that we had the same God. I didn't know. I thought that we shared some experience. I didn't know. I thought they were different than who they were, but apparently it was just lip service. And I don't mean to sound harsh, because I know a lot of people follow that way, right? A lot of people go that way. But it blew me away to see the relationship between church and state, to gain some thorough understanding of why the Jews say there has to be separation of state, why our founding fathers in this nation said there must be separation of church and state. Because when you get in this business of saying God told you something, and it was really the government filling your head with lies, and you come back and you want to beat me down with something, yeah, you might pierce me because we had a relationship, and now you're judging me harshly, and you're piercing me for your own sin, for someone else's sin, So I might react to that. But when you do that, that's what tells me that I can't be connected in this place. Do you understand? Like, there's all these rules in Christianity, right? You have to forgive and don't judge or you will be judged, right? But when it was time for the church to defend me, when they said they were going to defend me, when they offered me shelter in their house, they still attacked me. They still came at me with false accusations, and that's a problem for me. It's a problem for me that they prospered at my expense. It's a problem for me that they took my words and they used them, and they came back and made accusations against me, calling me the drunk and the drug addict. And don't drink and I never did drugs in my life, I keep saying this over and over like it matters. I know it doesn't matter. They're just making these accusations to draw power from me to take away my attention and my focus from where it's supposed to be. They want to keep all eyes on me, and they don't care if they're sitting there lying through their teeth with the things that they say to me. I get this, I get this, but why suffer for God all this time, right? And he gives me that promise for overcoming, And then these guys come back and say, if you keep it between us, we'll feed you. You know, why would I do that when God gave me this promise for overcoming? Overcoming, that means back to life. He gave me this promise for life, for purpose, for purpose and destiny. And for what I know, God, he's only cut 8 or 9 covenants throughout all the time that we know of, right? So, when he cuts these things, it's like he wants to change the world, okay? He creates worlds within worlds, right? So if God wants to create a world within a world, and it's something that I agreed to be the seed of when I was just a child, and there's no getting out of the obligation, If you try to get out of your obligation, like what's his name, Gideon, when he tried to get out of his obligation, he was like, I won't be your king, and neither will any of my children. He died anyways. You have to kind of take care of your responsibility, and you can't let anyone silence you, but you also can't give up. So when I come before you like this, and I'm saying who's the scammer, I kind of sound kind of petty, but I kind of want you to know that I'm not intimidated by the armies against me. I'm not intimidated by their positions of power being trusted professionals. I'm not intimidated to take them on because I have this covenant that God cut with me when I was a little girl, and he calls me Israel. You know what Israel means? It means you got to pass straight to God. It means that you're his ambassador in the earth. So if I'm God's ambassador in the earth, then what army am I supposed to bow to? What church am I supposed to bow to? They're when Christianity, he says, why would you follow dead people when you have the living right here? Jesus, right? Why follow after the dead when the living is right here? I think they missed the message on that one. I really think that they missed the message for that one, because they kept on trying to prove that Jesus was the Jewish Messiah, though he was not. And they kept on through all of the lifespan of Christianity. They're still trying to prove that message to this day, instead of focusing on what was taught in there. You see, Josephus was this historian way back when, and he actually fed a lot of what formed Christianity, right? Josephus, he was a son of the Maccabees. He was a descendant of them, of the Hasmonean dynasty, right? So his words have power because he was connected through blood to the family. So when he says something, God backs him up. When he says something, God backs him up. So if he's bringing things into Christianity, don't you think it'd be good to take some advice? Like what in Christianity would have made the world a better place? Not just that thing of forgiving people and laying down your life for somebody else, but there has to be law. There has to be law. If there's no law, there's no liberty. Because if you don't know what's right, if you don't understand things, then you'll be like these silly Americans who stand up and say, I'm a sovereign citizen, who speak nothing of the Constitution to say, hey man, when you do that, you're violating my right to a trial. The accused has rights, You can't have this information without getting a warrant. You put this boundary up, you hold this up. You can't use my neighbors to spy on me. You can't attack me through doctors and teachers. You can't set me up for a crime. My Constitution doesn't allow this. It wouldn't empower you to do it, and it protects me from you trying to do it to me. If you knew how to argue points, if you knew the purpose of the Constitution to limit government, if you understood, then you wouldn't be participating in it, Dr. Sedekase. You wouldn't be participating in it, Miss Zurich. You wouldn't be participating in it, Miss Greenwald. If you understand the purpose of things, you wouldn't be participating in it. But you're moved by people who come with an accusation, who come with false accusations, didn't get the clue when that big, powerful bully, couldn't get me down by themselves. You didn't get the clue when I was standing all by my lonesome and I still didn't die while they were attacking me. You thought you were stronger, you were smarter, you were more clever, you can do it? I don't think so. It doesn't matter the army that's coming against me because I stay with God. I stay within the law. I respect the rights of other people. I feel a little guilty coming up here and mentioning Miss Zurich and Miss Greenwald and Dale across the street. I feel a little guilty because, you shouldn't ruin people. You always got to leave room for redemption. You don't snuff out a wick that's smoking. You don't kill somebody who can't hurt you anymore. You don't do these things to people. You see? But if I don't mention them, the army will just keep growing. And I have to remember that there are laws for living. And then there are laws of war. And when we're fighting this battle of reputations, when we're fighting this battle of slander, when we're fighting this battle of controlling narratives, then we have to take out those who think that they can author things. Because they don't have the authority. Though they sit in positions of authority, they don't have the authority to do what they're doing. No one has the authority to be the author over another person's life. Case in point, my son, he's 14 years old, he's in 8th grade. They've been trying to label him with a behavior disorder since 5th grade. He's autistic, okay? He's on the spectrum somewhere. They told me this when he was in kindergarten, right? They said he's never going to recover. This is not something he can grow out of. This is what he is. Dr. Joanna, can't remember her name right now. But after they did this nonsense, they retired her and hired her back as a sub. Just so you can see how they play with the records, how they guard their witnesses. They retired her, she got a pension, and she got hired back immediately as a sub. Pay attention to that. Now, right now, as they're trying to ruin my kid's reputation, my son has a superpower that I just realized how incredible his superpower this is. And no neurotypical person could do this. Pi Day was just like last week, right? My son can tell you 103 digits of pi from memory. No grouping. I said, Ben, how did you learn that? Did you group the numbers? Did you sing a song? What did you do? I just remembered it. It's like a picture. He knows the whole thing, Just remember it. No neurotypical person can do that. Somebody can maybe remember 20 digits, more when you group them. But 103? 103 digits of pi, and you want to tell me that the boy has a behavior disorder. You want to tell me, they troll me in my YouTube feed, they tell me the boy won't listen to his mom. It's not the boy won't listen to his mom. The boy has slow processing. It takes him some time to respond. It's not the boy won't listen to his mom. Mom asks him a question, and it takes him some time to come back. And I understand what he's going through, because I also go through the same thing with thinking fast and thinking slow. I get that. I get what he's going through. It's not he don't listen to me. It's not. It's the autism. It's the lethargy. He's burnt out from the day. He's wore out. He's exhausted. They get the best part of him at school. I get the one who can't function because he's worn out from masking, putting on a good face, and being brave in there while people are trying to ruin his reputation. He's like me. He shows that positive side, and he doesn't react, right? He might cry like me, right? But he doesn't react. So to say that he has some kind of behavior disorder, there's something very disordered about them, And I was silent. I was silent for a long time until they started coming after my kids. Bishop was on stage like, you ain't that person no more. I was never that person. I just didn't defend myself because, for one, I didn't know what I was defending myself against. They were gaslighting me all over with these doctors and teachers and lawyers. Yeah, my lawyer, my very own lawyer for Social Security was against me, set me up in this, My very own lawyer believed their lies. I couldn't defend myself. I didn't know what I was being accused of, When everyone wants to come and cuddle up to you and pretend to be family, and then you lose your income and your family disappears, they have no contact with you. Your brother moves and doesn't even give you his address, So what the hell? I get what they're doing when they pretend to be helpful. Like right now, they're sending me messages for a domain meeting. Only the thing is, Miss Lance, right? This woman, first time I met her, she gave me bad directions to the preschool because I was going to send Ben to preschool out here, when I first moved in here. He's 8th grader now. That's like 10 years ago, right? Almost 10 years ago. I was going to send him to preschool here, but she gave me bad directions, right? I didn't put him in. Like, when people are running schemes like this, I may come back and still present nicely to you, but no. They, when I went to Texas and pulled my kids out of school, they were supposed to hold everything that was in their lockers, and they didn't. They threw everything away, right? Ms. Lance, she had this smirk on her face like, oh, this is all that was left in there. Everything else went in the garbage, Thank goodness my daughter had her friend get her glasses out her locker, They put my kids through things, like, all over. This woman, she keeps emailing me about respond yes or no for a domain meeting, and I won't respond to her, and I'll tell you why I won't. Because I didn't request it. I told them I was angry at them because they stripped away his services when he was younger. I told them I was angry with them because they stripped away the services that he needed to function, and he still got issues with his motor skills, right? I told them that. So she's like, oh, you want additional services? Well, you need a domain meeting. No, I don't need you to tell me what I need. I don't need you to take control when you've already done messed up. I don't need you to run these things, okay? You're too late. He's 14 years old. You're going to embarrass him now? You're going to reduce him? No, leave him alone now, But now they want to push the domain meeting, and I won't respond because I didn't request it. They needed me to request it. They can't force me to do it, And it's not that he doesn't need services. It's the way that they're handling things, where they just start pushing things down your throat. It's the way that they harass you, the way the way they make these little accusations against your kids. When they get into these things, I suffer for God, right? I stayed silent for a long time. My kids, they sit under my umbrella. You touch them, don't go to sleep. I got a bat in the garage, Don't go to sleep, because when you might be bigger with your army and whatnot, but I knew this lady, Deborah, in the Bible. She was a bad mamma jamma, right? I knew this lady, Deborah, in the Bible. Don't want to mess with her, right? I take my cues, right? I keep my children safe by letting you know, though I suffer for God, though I won't fight you, though I won't even really ask for justice for way back where. Not for all of it. You knew how much there was. Oh my God. But you mess with my kids, and now you got to pay for You got to pay for what you did to my kids. And you got to pay for everything you did way back where. Because my kids are where I draw the line. You done got sloppy thinking that I was small. I thought myself as a grasshopper. Well, I'm suffering all this and asking God, where are you? How much more do I have to put up with? Well, let me out. Just take me away. Let me die. Well, I'm praying to God all these things. And then one day I woke up and I realized God promised me overcoming. And you know what he gave me? He gave me a testimony that can move mountains. He gave me a testimony that says I stand shoulder to shoulder with Moses. He gave me a testimony. And I know the Jews will get mad at me for saying that because they say there's no prophet as great as Moses. I'm not a prophet. I'm not a prophet. I'm one like Jacob. I'm one like Isaac. I'm one like Abraham. I'm not a prophet. Don't make that mistake. That's why I can say I can stand shoulder to shoulder with Moses, It's don't get mad at me for it, okay? When I realize what I have, what God gave me all those years ago, how he's taught me that even when they strip all my income away, God still sends strangers to feed me. Strangers to chase me down in the grocery store. Strangers to hand me money on the street. Strangers. God's my cheerleader. You understand? He never forsook me. He was always with me. Even the other day when they were trying to attack me over at the DMV, sending that weird guy who yells, "Come here!" after me in there, and having the instructor be highly rude to my daughter, right? Yesterday, the DMV had an outage. Cut off communication. I didn't have anything to do with that, but God. Every time they mess with me, they have a breakdown in their communications. This one internship I had, they had a breakdown in their communications for like 3 weeks. It's just something that God does. He cuts them off. He gives them the hard time. It's not to say that this is destroying, It's not to say that this is justice, but it's to say that God sees them. That's the message that I get from it, right? So when we get the message that God sees them, God's still with me, God's still moving, God's still doing things, I know I got a God I can trust in. I know that my covenant to suffer for God, right? I took a lot of nonsense that I didn't know how to fight. I took a lot of nonsense. But now, since they trained me up and my eyes are clear, now that I can see them, and I get this game that they're running too. This game where they want to blame Delilah and they want to say Delilah made them do it. Delilah lied to them. They paid Delilah. I don't know what came first, the chicken or the egg. I don't know who was playing who there. If they were playing Delilah or if Delilah was playing them. But they were at this before Delilah ever came around. They were at this for a longer time than this. So we're not going to hang anything on Delilah. I don't care if Delilah's to blame. Because, you know what? In this country, people have a right to a trial. And you can't strip away anyone's rights without giving them a trial first. You cannot deny the rights of people without giving them a trial first. And even in a trial, the accused has rights. It has to be fair. There are laws to govern it. And guess what? Even if the person's found guilty, they go to jail, they still have rights. They have a right to be free from cruel and unusual punishment. This crap that they did to me, that is cruel and unusual punishment. I didn't get a trial. That's why I can compare them to Nazis. That's why I can compare it to a lynching. That's why I could stand up and fight. Because at no point in time was anything they did ever within the law. No point in time was it ever within any law, not the Bible, not Judaism, not Christianity, not Islam, not the American Constitution, which is the nation I reside. What they did to me was wrong, and there has to be accountability. And maybe I didn't say anything earlier. Maybe I had to wait for the right time. maybe, you know, this limit with my kids, you know, this place with my kids was my go time. And you made the big mistake when you came after them. Because Mama Bear doesn't sleep as much as you. You know, Mama Bear will fight 24/7 to keep my children safe and to keep them free. And you won't get away with not one thing. That's all I got to say for now because I'm out of time. You know, stupid clock on YouTube. I do have more to say, but I'll have to do that later. Have a good day.